Good evening, everyone. My name is Heather Trapez, and we are getting ready to call to order the Goffstown School Board meeting. If you would please rise and say the Pledge of Allegiance with us. Scott, do you have the picture?
It should be up.
It is not.
All right, thank you, Adam.
Okay,
Good
hold on.
evening, everyone. My name is Heather Trapez, and we are getting ready to call to order
Should be
the
now.
Goffstown School Board meeting. If you would please rise and say
To the flag of the United States of America
and to
and
the
to the
republic
republic for which it
it
stands,
one nation, under
under
God,
God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. So before we go into our full agenda, I do like to read the Right to Know law. As the chair of the Goffstown School Board, I find that due to the state of emergency declared by the governor as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, and in accordance with the governor's emergency order number 12 pursuant to Executive Order 2020-04, this public body is authorized to meet electronically. Please note that there is no physical location to observe and listen contemporaneously to this meeting, which was authorized pursuant to the governor's emergency order. However, in accordance with the emergency order, I am confirming that we are utilizing Zoom video conferencing for this electronic meeting. All members of the Goffstown School Board and participating administrators have the ability to communicate contemporaneously during this meeting through this platform, and the public has access to contemporaneously listen to this meeting by watching a live stream of this meeting on GTV, as well as on the Goffstown School District's YouTube channel. If you wish to provide public comment, please go to the SAU 19 Administrative Building at 11 School Street. There will be a laptop in the lobby for those who wish to make a public comment. Please respect social distancing and remain outside the SAU building if another individual is in the lobby. We previously gave notice to the public of the necessary information for accessing the meeting, including how to access the meeting on GTV and YouTube. Instructions have also been provided on the website of the Goffstown School District. If there is a widespread access problem, please call 660-5758 or email at denise.morin@sau19.org. Please be patient with her if she doesn't get back to you right away. She is taking our Zoom meeting minutes. In the event the public is unable to access the Zoom meeting due to a widespread system problem, the meeting will be adjourned and rescheduled. Please note that all votes that are taken during this meeting shall be done by roll call vote. Let's start the meeting by taking a roll call attendance. When each member states their presence, please also state whether there is anyone in the room with you during this meeting, which is required under the Right to Know law. So I will start with Dan Cloutier.
Dan is here, and I am alone in the room with a headset and microphone.
Great, thank you, Dan. Ellen? Oh, you're muted, Ellen. You have to unmute yourself. Should be on the far left on the bottom. There you go.
I no longer have the screen of seeing everybody. It just disappeared.
Oh, okay. So you need to state your name and your attendance, please.
Ellen Vermakowitz, I am here and I'm present and there's no one in the room with me. I just can't see anybody or anything.
Okay, all right, thank you, Ellen. Tim?
Present. No one here.
Okay, Susanna?
Susanna here. Nobody in the room with me.
Perfect. Janelle?
Janelle O'Brien here. Nobody in the room with me.
Okay, great. Jared?
Jared Talbot present and alone, except you might hear my dogs barking in the background.
Okay, Ginny? Oh, you're muted, Ginny. You're muted. There you go. Go ahead, Ginny.
Ginny McKinnon, I'm here and I'm alone.
All right, perfect. And Retta,
I am here and I'm alone.
perfect. And I am Heather Trapez, and I am here and I am alone. All
Excuse me,
right.
Heather.
Yes, hon.
Yeah, without the screen, I don't know how to get back on the screen with everyone so that I can
I
wave
think-
or something.
On the top right, Scott, help me if I'm wrong, there should be a gallery button for you to hit.
Nope. It says support and it says English. My screen says deliver happiness to your colleagues. I am not a robot. Invite. I don't know. It just clicked. I didn't touch
'Cause
anything.
I can see you.
I
think
can't
at this-
see anything.
I think at this point, we're gonna have to proceed. Can you hear us though, Ellen?
Yes, I can hear and I'll call
Then-
out if I need to speak.
Okay.
Okay, just, yeah, raise your hand in front of the camera. I can see you.
I can't. Oh, okay. You can see me.
I
Okay.
can see you. All
Thank
right, so
you.
moving on with our agenda. So will entertain a motion to approve the March 16th, 2020 board meeting minutes.
I'll move it.
Okay, so Ellen makes the motion. Who seconds?
Jared, I will second.
Jared will second. Did anybody see anything? Any changes?
I did not.
Anybody? No? Okay, seeing none, then I will call your name and give me your vote. Dan,
Aye.
Ellen,
Aye.
Tim,
Aye.
Susanna,
Aye.
Janelle,
Aye.
Jared,
Aye.
Ginny,
Aye.
Retta,
Aye.
and Heather, aye. Denise, that's unanimous. The motion passed to approve the minutes. So the next is correspondence. Brian, do you have anything for us?
No correspondence this evening.
Okay, perfect. Okay, next is commendations, good news. Anybody have anything they want to say?
I do.
Okay, Jenny, go ahead.
I would like to just commend our teachers and our the rest of our staff. First of all, our teachers, I know they are doing just working day and night in this new program because they're working with kids in the morning when their dads get up and start in the morning, and working, answering questions, and then they start again in the evening when the moms and dads come home from work and start to do schoolwork with their kids then, and they're correcting work, and they're just really working night and day. And so I really have to commend them for all the extra work they're doing, along with doing new care. I'm sorry, I'm a nurse. Doing new plans every day. Also to the parents, really this is tough on parents to all of a sudden learn how to be a teacher. So I really give them credit for working with the program and trying to give their kiddos, the best experience that they can. And to our administrators for really trying to figure all of this out and make it work. And from what I hear, it's working really quite well. So kudos to everybody for the hard work they're doing. Scott, for all the foresight that you've had and anticipating problems that come up that the rest of us didn't even think of. So, kudos to everybody. You're all doing a really awesome job.
Great, thank you, Jenny, very much. Anybody else have anything to say? Okay, I don't see any. Oh, go ahead, somebody else? No? Okay, I thought somebody was saying something. Okay, so I'm opening it to public comment, so I can see the public comment area. I don't see anybody at the door. So I am gonna close public comment because I don't see anybody there. So we're on to the finance discussion. Scott, you have a manifest and vouchers and stuff.
I have to unmute myself. I apologize.
That's okay.
I'm gonna share my screen with everyone, and it's the manifest summary sheet.
Okay. Plus you emailed this out today.
So just bear with me a second. Can you see it?
I can. Can everybody see it?
No, but okay.
Yes, I can see it.
Okay, just
Yeah.
wanted to confirm it. So before you tonight, you have a total manifest of $1,020,857.08. This is rather typical where we have two payrolls totaling almost $600,000, taxes, payroll taxes, 185, almost 186,000. Health trust, which is our health and dental, for 552,000 and change. And then we have GEA and GESS dues, Lincoln Financial, which is life and long-term disability, and then TSA Consulting, 18,000 and change for 403 contributions. So the total for payroll taxes and benefits is $1,367,487.04. Special education activity, Spalding Rehab, that was 22,500. That was 3 students for February. Durham School Services, $191,000. That is special ed transportation, both in district and out of district, for 2 months, January and February. The Bedford School District, this is out of district special education tuition for a semester. And Institute of Professional Practice, $6,800. That was multiple students in the month of March. And Blazer Works is almost $9,800. That was vision, speech, and that was for February and March. Our general expenses is $116,800 for Goffstown Truck Center. That was March transportation, as well as there was some, that includes the late bus and a couple of co-curriculars at that in early March. Dead River is your propane at $20,457. Eversource is electricity, 24,910. Home Depot Pro, those are our custodial supplies. That also included, and we'll talk about this a little bit later, we bought some sanitizing equipment, and that was a large part of that. That was over $13,000 for that equipment. Stantec Engineering, $15,699. That was for the Glen Lake Modular Project. The Pappas Group, $52.96. These are safety straps for the winches at Mountain View Middle School for the gym area. Those had to be replaced based upon an inspection. And then PSAT, that's student testing that occurred, and that's almost $7,400. We did have some food service bills in the months of February and early March, and that totaled almost $11,700. And that is the manifest before you. So there would need to be a motion. I wanted to also, I talked to Dan. Dan is the chair of the Admin and Finance Committee. I spoke with him earlier. The vast majority of these, and I'll show you right now, this is our fin form. Let me know when you can see it.
I can see it.
All right. Everything in the gray shaded area has already been paid based upon the directive that you have given me to pay these bills. The last two, which is a payroll, a small payroll, as well as the accounts payable for $636,451.74. That is something that has not yet been issued. So you would be making a motion to approve the manifest, recognizing that the majority of the payments have already been issued.
Okay. Thank you, Scott.
Dan would
So-
like to make a motion.
Okay, Dan?
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the manifest totaling $1,920,857.08, knowing that prepayments of $1,280,492.13 have already been made, the balance to be made.
I would second that.
Okay, Tim seconds that. Okay, any other questions for Scott on this? Okay, seeing none, I'm gonna do a roll call again. Dan,
Yes.
Ellen,
Yes,
Tim,
Aye.
Susanna,
Aye.
Janelle,
Yes.
Jared,
Yes.
Ginny,
Yes,
Retta,
Yes.
and Heather, yes. We're unanimous. Denise, we passed that motion. Anything else, Scott?
Yes, the next item on the agenda are budget transfers, and there were many of them in light of what is going on. I'm going to share my screen again with you,
Okay.
and just let me know when you can see it.
I'm good. I can see it.
All right. So you can see, if you look at the bottom here, we have budget transfers that total $173,949.55. Just to give you an overview, and we'll cover this a little bit later when we talk about the expenses that we've incurred due to the COVID-19, our reaction to that. But the first one, which is Goffstown budget transfer 135, this included buying Chromebooks, and that was for $12,987.56. That was our first 50 Chromebooks that were purchased, and it came from a budget transfer from health insurance, that health insurance line where we had some monies left over due to different options that folks had taken this year. The second big batch, which is Goffstown budget transfer 137. And you might ask what happened to 136. 136 doesn't fall within your purview. It was under $5,000. I'll share all of the budget transfers next month, every single one that we've done over the year, but I just want, this is for tonight, this is what you'd be voting on. The first one, again, this is all going to be going for IT equipment, both servers and Chromebooks. So you can see the lion's share of this 173,900 and change is coming. We have to spend money on IT, and it's in three primary areas in terms of the IT expenses. I'm going to explain those. So we purchased in total 175 Chromebooks, and we may need to purchase more, but I just wanted to let you know that so far that's what we have done. And we've also had to replace servers. So you'll recall that we had a server virtualization plan in our CIP. It was a 3-phase plan that was going to start next year. Unfortunately, we needed to speed it up because our servers could not handle the capacity of remote learning. So the first part of phase 1 is being worked on almost as we speak. I think they're being delivered. So right now we're kind of cobbling things together on the IT side. But what we're doing there is we're increasing our server capacity in phase 1. Unfortunately, we've had a problem with some of our backup servers, which was part of phase 2, and we cannot go down in a remote learning environment. So we're going to be doing that as well. And then the rest of these IT purchases are for the other 150 Chromebooks that we are purchasing, that we've purchased already. And a lot of them, as the superintendent will discuss later, have been deployed. So where is this money coming from? The first line is a teacher substitute line. And there, because we are not, the school is not in session, we have monies available in the teacher substitute line. The second line is coming from transportation. And I'll talk a little about transportation later, but right now we're not there are some transportation costs that we're not incurring, and that's why I'm taking money from transportation. In terms of, you'll see retirement stipends in this particular area. As you know, we typically budget 1 year ahead for these retirement stipends, and I believe we have some play in our budget with regard to these retirement stipends where we can pull money from this particular area. If something does change, I'll have to do another budget transfer, but I think this is where we can go for now. Last but not least, if you look at Goffstown budget transfer 138, once again, this is for IT software. So we bought a lot of hardware in terms of servers and Chromebooks, but we needed to buy licenses and software for those Chromebooks and for the servers. And that's also coming from the teacher substitute line. So I would request a motion from a board member with respect to approving Goffstown budget transfers 135, 137, and 138 using the total on your screen.
Okay, great. Thank you, Scott. Do I have a motion?
I have a comment. Scott, did you share that PDF with us?
No, not till now.
Okay. Yeah, I can't read it close enough to make a motion.
What can't you see? Can you see any of it, Dan?
Without getting into detail, I can see enough to vote on it, but not make the motion.
Okay, all right, that's fine.
This is Jared. I'll make the motion to approve the budget transfers as presented.
Okay, thank you, Jared. Do I have a second?
And
I'll
this is
sec-
Susanna. I'll second it.
Susanna will second it. Is there any other questions for Scott on this?
Yes, Mr. Chair, this is Jared. I have a question that I'd like to look at.
Okay, go ahead, Jared.
If you can bring it back up, Scott, it looks like that we lost the item, but the question I have is with the transferring the money from the substitute account, does this exhaust that account number for the rest
No,
of the year?
No, it does not. There's still, let me see, probably close to $80,000 in that line, if not 100. There's 80 to 100,000 still left in that line. We have a long-term sub that I know that two long-term subs that are a part of that, that are directly servicing students. But there's still, what I did, Jared, and others, is that in the event that school does reopen, I left enough money in there for substitutes for the remainder of the year.
Okay.
Thank you. That was my follow-up question.
Yep. I apologize. I should have explained that when I did it.
Yeah, thank you, Jared, for asking. Is there any other questions for Scott on this? Retta?
Yes, thank you. It was along the same line, and just a point of clarification. So if a teacher is sick right now, do they have substitutes? I'm not sure how that's being lined up. I'm assuming people are still getting sick, or do they just put that class on hold?
So the teachers, if I can speak to that,
Yeah, go ahead, Brian.
and I would welcome Mrs. McGrath to chime in as well. If the teachers have done a really good job having contingency plans, so I can get into a little more detail, but as of right now, if people are taking sick time, just like if they were in the brick and mortar building, we're still tracking that. But teachers have come up with contingency plans if they're not able to meet the needs of their remote instruction. The teachers have done a really nice job with that.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Ellen, you had a question?
Yeah, 175 Chromebooks, was that to give out to students that needed them for the remote learning, or what were they for?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions for Scott or Brian on this? So we have a motion, we have a second. I'll do roll call. Dan?
Yes.
Ellen?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
Susanna?
Aye.
Janelle?
Aye.
Jared?
Aye.
Ginny?
Aye.
Retta?
Aye.
And Heather, aye. So we passed unanimously, Denise. Thank you. Scott, is there anything else?
That's all I have for now.
All right, so superintendent report. I should note that we have Superintendent Brian Bulkey on, as well as our HR Director, Kate McGrath, and Denise Moran is taking minutes. She is on, but you can't see her. All right, go ahead, Brian.
Thank you, Heather.
You're welcome.
Very similar to Ginny's remarks, I'd like to begin with just a profound recognition of our teachers. I can't even begin to share with you how incredibly proud I am and the remarkable job that our teachers are doing. Many districts were really well positioned for remote learning. We were not. And in short order, our teachers have truly done a remarkable job, and I'm just so incredibly grateful for all of their hard work. Along with that, I'd like to recognize our administrators as well. There are people who are just mission critical every single day, and that certainly includes Scott, that includes Kate, it includes MC Barry, Jen Dolliff, Randy Loring, Dawn Tabor, but the big one I'd like to recognize is Steve Bourget. You can imagine right now that the IT director is probably the most mission critical individual we have. And Steve has done a remarkable job. He's been flexible, he's been patient, and he has worked really hard to make this work. So I'd like to recognize all of our administrators, but in particular, I'd like to recognize Mr. Bourget. So the status of all of our groups of employees, I'd like to go through and give the board a status update, and then I would welcome anything that Kate might share. So right now, all of our staff let me start by groups. So all of your administrators have been working. They're working 7 days a week. The teachers are all working. They're working, I believe, 8 days a week. And the support staff, let me go through by groups. Our para-educators are providing remote support. So we, at this point, are working with all of them to provide sufficient training and professional development, as well as our next round of device deployment will be for para-educators, because we have many paras that don't have devices that they can use to promote support in a remote environment. So that'll be one of the next pieces. But our para-educators are working. We're still figuring out, we've got a few people that we're trying to get up to speed, but the majority of them are all providing remote supports. Our custodians, we have had the custodians out. We have not allowed them back into the building until we had a very good plan. So right now, we have a plan to have our head custodians coming into school starting tomorrow, and they will be setting up the different sections of the school so that our custodians can come in and safely begin their what we would typically consider our summer cleaning. So all of our custodians will be totally and completely alone. They will be isolated, entering and exiting the building with their own doors, and they'll have all the supplies and materials that they need to do their cleaning will be provided and left for them. There will be no crossing of paths for our custodians. So in fact, we've worked very closely with our rep from NEA New Hampshire, and I think he would be comfortable with me saying that he thinks our plan is the most comprehensive that he's seen in New Hampshire school districts. So the rest of the custodians will be returning to work this week after we have the first initial day of setup, and we will also be looking at outdoor projects as well. So we have a number of grounds projects, landscaping projects, and again, all of our staff can be totally and completely isolated and alone. We will not be doing any projects that require 2 people to do them. Our food service folks, the majority of them are not working. And at this point, we have a small group that has been doing cleaning in the kitchens, has cleared out food. We've made food donations to the Goffstown network as well as other local school districts. And Megan Bizzaro has done an incredible job. We're starting a food pickup program tomorrow at Bartlett. So that's a new extension that we're adding. And we are exploring our ability to provide greater food needs for our families that have food insecurity. So our food service folks have been doing remote training, as have our custodians. We've had professional development that we've had them doing, including watching videos and responding. And there have been a number of professional development modules for all of our folks who have been out of the schools. So a couple of other, I've got kind of a long list here, Heather, so I'll just keep going through it.
Yeah, go for it.
And I don't want to repeat myself because I know that board members have likely seen the videos that we've posted each week, but I want to highlight a couple of documents that we've created. We created our SAU 19 Connected Learning Plan. This document is on our website and provides an ideological as well as logistical overview of how we're providing remote learning and how we're keeping students and staff connected. We've developed a parent video and audio conference and email notification that was sent out to parents, and we've created guidelines for using audio and video conferencing with students. You're probably aware that Governor Sununu has extended the school closure until May 4th. I do think it's quite likely at this point that we will not safely be able to return to school. I had been holding out some hope that June might be safe. But I do think at this point we should continue to wrap our heads around the concept that we will not be able to safely be back in our brick and mortar structures. I do also want to share that even when the governor lifts the school closure, this will be a local decision. So if the governor were to say school districts are allowed to return to school, we may choose, as I suspect a fair number of New Hampshire school districts would, we may choose to remain in a remote learning environment for the remainder of the school year, and that would be a local decision. The other local decision with respect to building access, the governor and the commissioner of education have held the belief that special education small group instruction is permissible and can be happening in our schools. I do not agree with that. I do not support that. And we will not be providing small group instruction to special education students. I do have concerns that we have many families that I know are having an incredibly challenging time with this. I'm worried about kids. I'm worried about abuse and neglect. I'm worried about kids that need counseling services. I'm worried for our families. So I think we have continued to share information with teachers that if they have any fears around abuse and neglect, that they are still mandatory reporters. So information has been provided by the school principals to make sure that all of our staff are continue to be vigilant and to do everything we can to keep our kids safe. So on our website, we have continued to put all of the pertinent documents as well as the video updates. I've been doing a video update thank you, Scott. I've been doing a video update every week, and this continues to be a great way for us to communicate. And again, I offered my continued gratitude to Adam McCune for processing the videos, making them professional, putting the graphics and the logos. He's done just a great job with that, and I'm very, very appreciative. We developed something in Office 365 that we're calling a staff dashboard. So this is an example of a project where somebody who is smart and has capacity, but maybe their role is a little different. We've moved someone into a new role. So Justin Huft, who is our athletic director, Justin is a very smart, savvy guy. And so in working with Mr. Gross, he has created a staff dashboard that we just released today, which will allow us to track and monitor all of our support staff's capacity as well as their current job assignment. So this will allow us that if we identify an individual who is not providing remote supports through this tool, that we will begin to move people into the appropriate categorical areas of leave. So Kate has been working really hard. We've worked very closely with our NEA rep, and we continue to identify what groups, categorical areas of leave people may need to access. But this dashboard is a tool that allows us to see everyone's status in terms of what they're doing for work, as well as what they have for capacity in different times. April vacation is a hot topic right now, and I'm going to encourage us to have a little bit of a conversation about this. I have heard from lots and lots of people about April vacation, and I would say anecdotally, the numbers are split. So I'd say about 50-50 feel that we should take April vacation, and other folks think that we should continue to work through April vacation and then get out of school 1 week earlier. I have spoken with our union presidents from the Teachers Association and have asked them to provide feedback to me. So Mrs. Grassett, who is the GEA president, did a quick survey with the teachers today, and in New Boston, the union leadership did the same thing. And New Boston shared their results. It's about 50-50. I'd have to go back and look at the number definitively, but it's about half. At this point, I've heard from a lot of teachers that they want to keep going. I've heard from a lot of families they want to keep going. And I will say I'm kind of indifferent. I definitely see both sides of the argument. A week ago, I said to Kate that our people are going to be really fried and are really going to need a break. But a break for what? They can't go anywhere. They can't do anything. They can't see anyone. So I think at this point, maintaining consistency and routines is important. And I think the majority of families, I would speculate, would want us to work through the vacation. I can do a parent survey. I could do a staff survey as well, although some of that data we'll already have. But if it would be the board's pleasure, I would be happy to do a quick survey and get a pulse from the community, which would allow us to make a decision based on quantitative numbers rather than anecdotal data. But April vacation remains a very, very hot topic and one that people are very interested in. So I might pause there, Heather, if I may, and ask if there's any feedback from me with respect to April vacation, or if the board would like me to move forward with a survey.
All right, yeah, somehow I just lost all, I can hear you guys, but I can't see you. So does anybody have a comment on this? Do you want to talk about this now, or you want to move this down?
I see.
Dan can say something if you'd like.
Yes, go ahead, Dan.
So Brian, even before I had heard about this, one of the thing, and without talking to anybody, I said, gee whiz, if I'm sitting at home and I can't do anything, and we've just gotten into the flow, because even though we've been doing this for 3 weeks, we haven't really been doing this for 3 weeks. I think we're starting to get into the flow. And once we get into a flow, stopping it for a week where you can't really do anything different than what you're already doing, I would sway more for working through the April vacation and getting out earlier.
Right.
This is Tim.
Tim, go ahead.
I think that's a good point, Dan. I was initially going to say that, we should probably allow people a week to rest and to recoup, thinking along the lines of students. But in terms of your point, Dan, I think that's right. They probably have now starting to hit their stride. So it would make sense just to work through it, because you don't want to stop a good thing once it starts rolling.
And this is Retta.
Go ahead, Retta.
I guess I'm wondering, it seems like the polls are 50-50 no matter who you've talked to. And I'm wondering if we do a survey, if we're going to find the same results. If you do the survey, even if you did it tomorrow, we'd get the results back. We wouldn't be able to vote on it for 2 weeks. And then it's the week before, April vacation. So I'm wondering if there is any value to delaying the decision for 2 more weeks versus what do we want to communicate to the public so plans can be made.
Yeah, I agree with you,
This is
Retta.
Ellen.
Go ahead, Ellen.
Okay. Can someone tell me the downside to not having the vacation and ending school a week early?
I would say from the conversations that I've had, Ellen, the downside of working through vacation is just that people are getting tired. I think our staff, I would say our staff, our families, and our students are all tired. This has been a hard adjustment for everyone. And in addition to recognizing our teachers, I'd like to recognize our families that are working incredibly hard to support their children, particularly young children. My kids are older and they're very independent. So for me, I don't need to provide an awful lot of support to my kids. But people with young children, this is very taxing. But I think that the pluses for working through vacation probably outweigh the negatives. I think that if kids aren't in school, I do fear that they will be getting together. I fear that people will not be staying at home and socially distancing, and that it might promote some bad behavior. But in terms of Retta's point, I do think we could wait 2 weeks. Or as always, it's probably going to be an unpopular decision on both sides. I'm happy to make it. So I don't have any problem being the one to make the decision.
Well,
I
like
would
Retta
also, one other option would be, I think that if we chose to work through it, I would probably give families the ability to opt out. So we would not stop providing remote instruction, but if a family chose that they are really exhausted and tired and can't keep going, that I would encourage them to go ahead and make that individual decision as a family, and we would adjust the attendance accordingly.
Okay.
And Heather?
Yes, go ahead, Dan.
So one of the other things I was thinking in a train of thought that we're getting into this, we're ramping up. There's no reason why we couldn't take a break sometime in the middle of May.
Mm-hmm.
Because here's what I'm thinking, and we're talking about the teachers working and working and working. We take a week off, I can almost guarantee you the teachers aren't going to have that week off. They're going to be preparing for the following week, trying to catch up, and they're really not going to get time off. That's my worry.
That's a fear that I share, Dan. And if we were to be off, my weekly message that week would be, you're done. It's time to unplug. It's time to take a break. I want the teachers to unplug. I want the students to unplug. And I would try to offer that caution. But I do think you're right. They're going to keep going.
Mm-hmm.
Heather?
Yes, go ahead, Ellen.
It's Ellen. Okay, can you see us again?
I can. I'm back.
Okay. I guess I'm thinking more of work through it with the option if people choose to opt out, and then end the school year a week earlier. I think Dan's got a point with people are getting into the flow of this and establishing what they're doing with the kids, and when the kids are on schedule to be doing some learning work. And I'd like for us to make the decision sooner rather than later, so everyone knows about it. Would you be willing to accept a motion to that effect, or more discussion first?
Well, let me see. Brian, I see your hand up.
Yeah, just one thing I'd want to add, because the New Boston board isn't meeting until Wednesday, if the Goffstown board were inclined to make a motion, I might ask you to just be mindful and to consider the need for the New Boston School Board to consider this. And perhaps you could make a motion that would be, if there was concurrence with the New Boston board, to make your motion predicated on that.
Okay.
Okay.
Is that okay, Heather?
Yeah, hang on one second, Ellen. Yeah, I know I saw you, Ginny, but Jared had his hand up first. So once Jared's done, then I'll call on you. So go ahead, Jared.
There's a lot of different things with this, but the question that I would have is, can we actually make this as a discussion for the SAU? Don't we have a meeting scheduled at the SAU level next week? And that way we can talk about it collectively, and it gives us enough time to talk about to some of our constituents about this motion. I get very concerned where we just bring things up on these meetings and we have an immediate vote that impacts our community versus able to bring it out into the agenda, knowing that we're going to be talking about this, knowing that we can seek some kind of resolution or communication with our constituents so that we can vote with an informed manner. I just ask that we delay it to the SAU meeting if it's appropriate.
Okay, thank you, Jared. Ginny, I'll let you go ahead, and then Brian, we can speak to that. Go ahead,
Yeah,
Ginny.
I'm really kind of divided because I can see the importance of the consistency and people that are, kind of going on and they're started and they've got a thing going on in their home. But the other thing that I'm thinking of is, like Brian had said a couple of minutes ago, the parents that are trying to work at home and have small children or in the younger grades, elementary school grades, that are trying to figure out how to teach their children remote learning. and trying to do their job at home, and our teachers who are working night and day, how long do we expect them to do that without taking some time off? So, I can see both sides, how it's important for the consistency, but it might also be important for everyone to take a rest. So I don't know how you decide what the most important part of that is.
Right. Thank you, Jenny. So Jared, with your question, Brian, we haven't decided how we can do our SAU board meeting next week. If we'll be able, I don't know if you've talked to Adam about doing everybody on a Zoom, because that's what, 15 board members. If that is something that we can do, I'd almost say let everybody think about it, let New Boston talk, and then if we could have the SAU board meeting, then we can discuss it. But if that's not happening, then we may have to figure another avenue out.
I think that's actually a really good suggestion by Jared.
Mhm.
I think that's a really smart way to do it. And I know that New Boston would appreciate that.
Right. So I know that was something we were going to discuss about being able to have another meeting. Would we be able to do it through Zoom, Adam, with all these people, with that many board members? Okay, he's giving me the
Adam,
heads up.
He gave me the thumbs up.
Okay, so does that sound like something everybody is good with? Think about it, let New Boston have their meeting on Wednesday, and then as the SAU, we can make a decision. I think that's fair and gives everybody some insight, because you're right, it could go either way. And maybe get more information from teachers, Brian, if or parents or something. Does
Yeah,
that work?
I'll plan to do a brief survey, and so we'll get some hard numbers, and I'll identify. I'll have people identify whether they're a teacher, support staff, parent, so we can look at it by groupings.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Does that work for everybody? A nod
Yes.
of heads?
Yeah.
Sounds
Okay.
good.
That works.
Heather,
Oh, yes.
Dan?
Go ahead, Dan. Mhm.
would it complicate items asking them if a later vacation would be beneficial? Would that really muck the works up a bit? Meaning, instead of having an April vacation, have a May vacation 2 weeks later, or maybe a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, go to school and then just do nothing for a couple days.
Like a longer Memorial Day?
Like, well, Memorial Day, we're almost out of school.
Well, true. Oh, yeah, that's true. It's the end of May.
So,
Let us look at a couple of options, Dan. I don't want to make it more complicated than it needs to be, and I don't want to confuse people. But,
agreed.
Let us see. Even if the idea was, would you be in support of some maybe some alternative vacation time in the month of May?
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So does that sound good? All right. Thank you, Brian. Was there anything else on your?
Oh yeah, I'm only about a third of the way through my list.
Okay, go ahead.
So I wanted all board members to know that I have been meeting with all of our town officials, the police and fire chiefs, and our town administrators every week. So we have had ongoing communication. Mr. Gross has been in close contact with our partners at Town Hall in Goffstown and New Boston, and we continue to provide a lot of support and collaboration with them. School transportation is an area that we're going to want to talk about, and I'll give Mr. Gross the heads up to talk about this, and I'll keep going for now. But we had superintendents are meeting every week, so I meet with all the superintendents in the state as well as our local partners in the South Central districts, and many of us all share the same transportation vendor. So rather than engaging in individual negotiations with the bus company, I volunteered Mr. Gross to coordinate a group of all the business administrators to have a shared position and to negotiate with STA or Goffstown Truck. So that's ongoing, as well as Durham School Services for our special education transportation. I mentioned already the partnership with the network, and now we're expanding 2 days a week. We're going to have food pickup for Goffstown and New Boston families at Bartlett. Special education supports are up and running. Our special educators have been doing a really good job. At this point, we have, I think, remote supports in place for almost all of our students. We do have a couple of out-of-district students that we are still trying to figure out how to support them. And these could include court placements and some other unusual circumstances. So at this point, we have a very, very small list of folks that we're still trying to identify what those needs would be. From an HR perspective, and because Kate's on the call, she could chime in, but Kate has been just absolutely masterful and as mission critical as Steve Bourget has been. So right now, I would say the two key people that we couldn't lose would be Steve Bourget and Kate McGrath. I think for Scott, we've got Laura as a backup. With me, you've got MC as a backup. We don't have a backup for Steve or for Kate. So Kate's work continues to be mission critical. She's developed a building access process that we developed an attestation form that anyone asking for access to the buildings in general still remains denied. I'm starting to get to give a little bit of flexibility for teachers who need to get into the school to access materials, but that list is still very, very small. So we've created a workflow process, or I should say Kate has created a workflow process that those requests, staff have to submit an attestation form, and then it gets routed through various levels of approval, ultimately ending up for my approval. We continue to identify the challenges around leaves. So there are new policies and requirements, staff communications, and I would say policies with a little p, not a capital P as in school board policies. But in order to comply with the Families First Coronavirus Response Act, there are pieces that we've had to figure out with respect to leave and how to do all of that in ASOP as well as eFinance, our different platforms. Kate and I have been busy negotiating with our teachers unions and our support staff unions, and we have a couple of memorandums of understanding, two that we have already put in place, and we can speak a little bit to those. Primarily, it's around protections for teachers because they are providing remote support, and I don't want teachers to have fear that they're going to be disciplined or have issues because they're working remotely. Typically, the New Hampshire Code of Conduct and Code of Ethics would not allow for things like parent phone calls or teachers making phone calls to students, but we've had some flexibility that we've had to enter into with our unions. Our professional and administrator contracts will be before you this evening, so you should have received the staffing sheet, and she's been working hard at that and getting contracts ready to go. She's also been working on open enrollment preparation. For all of our certified staff, we have eliminated the requirements for this year at this time for the typical process that administrators would need to meet with professional staff and sign off on their 3-year total performance evaluation. We have waived that process, and all of our recertifications have been submitted to the state. And at a later point in time, teachers will submit a reflection, and I think there will be no shortage of things for them to reflect upon to their administrators at a later point in time. Kate has developed a pretty incredible staff frequently asked questions document that she continues to update, and it's just a great resource. I don't think that that's something that we publish publicly, but all the staff have received it, and it's just a lot of information, and it's resources for all of our staff. And Kate has also been a part of and is continuing to explore remote professional development and things like our harassment training, anti-bullying training, staff abuse and neglect reporting requirements, which, by the way, I should mention that I can't remember. I don't think I might have shared this. We did a training called Know and Tell for all of our employees before the vote. So back was it the first week of March, Kate? I'm drawing a little bit of a blank. March 10th. Thank you. So we did a training for all staff called Know and Tell. That was important, and we're continuing to explore remote professional development. Just a quick facilities list. We are working on the lock project that the school board is aware of for the interior classroom doors. That project is happening this week. In room 119 at Mountain View Middle School, we're working on that secondary egress for that one classroom. That's something that the board will recall had come out of the visitation from the state fire marshal. We continue to work on rigging on the middle school stage in the hilltop and the curtains. We're replacing windows. We've got bleacher inspections and repairs happening. A broken slide at Maple Ave that's getting fixed. We've got an old oil tank that apparently we're digging up. We're doing carpeting. We're doing flooring projects. There's a lot of facilities related projects that we are hitting the gas on because we have the ability now to do those projects without disrupting school. From a grant perspective, we anticipate, and Scott, the numbers of this are still a little bit undefined, but we're looking right now at monies that we will have through Title 4A, about 50 grand in Goffstown, that we are looking at the possibility of some additional technology supports, which would be either Chromebooks or probably some laptop carts for that $50,000 project. MC has been working really hard and doing a great job providing support to all the teachers and administrators as we get up to speed on Google Classroom and Seesaw. The teachers are truly doing a remarkable job supporting one another. So you can imagine that you have your early adopters and then you have your folks that need a little more support. And the teachers have been doing an incredible job supporting one another. We repurposed all of our library media specialists that they're providing support exclusively to teachers. So we've got trainings and Google Classroom sessions and all kinds of stuff that's been ongoing. Video conferencing, I think you're all aware that we've rolled out Zoom and Big Blue Button. We do have restrictions on how Zoom is being used, and I do know that there are concerns right now with the Zoom platform. But similar to how Mr. Gross is doing this meeting, we have those requirements in place for our teachers. Report cards have been a challenge. So we just printed all of our, I think all the elementary report cards have gone out at this point in time. We did not have a tool to be able to deploy those electronically. So we did have our principals and our principals' administrative assistants have printed and have mailed traditional report cards at the elementary level. For middle school and high school students, all of their grades are up to date in Power School, and any families that needed a hard copy, they were given the chance to receive that. For device deployment, Scott mentioned the 150 Chromebooks that we purchased. We had 138 families requested devices, and at this point, as of this afternoon, 99 of them had been picked up. We have an additional 50 that will be our next order, and we've got some families that have not been able to coordinate a pickup time. I mentioned Justin Huft acting as a utility player. Another person that I would recognize is Josh Lewis, who has been our Dean of Students at Mountain View. Josh has worked closely with the IT department, and he has been in charge of the distribution of the laptops and the Chromebooks. So Josh has done a really great job getting those out to families. Our next group, we have 25 laptops that will be deployed on Wednesday for paraprofessionals, and we're moving forward with that. Scott already mentioned the server virtualizations. We've had a lot of fears that our network would crash because of the volume and the usage. And I think now we have older kids and younger kids have kind of figured out their schedules, and probably not surprising, the teenagers are not the first ones on, it's the little kids. And I think the flow has naturally kind of created some equilibrium, but we've been working hard to make sure that our networks are sufficient to support remote learning. Lots of things that the IT department is doing with respect to phones and some of the calls, but at this point, that would be kind of the highlights. And again, I'm not repeating anything that I've already shared in videos. So I might stop there and ask if there are any questions that I can answer.
Ellen here. I lost our chairman.
Yeah, I noticed that too.
Hi, Janelle. It's Janelle.
Janelle is back, but I'm gonna text Heather.
Okay, so while if we lost Heather, Retta, I would ask you to step in and chair.
Oh, she's
I'm
back.
Oh, she's back. Okay.
I don't know what happened. You guys all disappeared again. Oh, I can see
I
Janelle.
had a question.
Okay, go ahead, Ella.
With regard to children's schoolwork and the special ed and the 504 and counseling and all that stuff, everything being done remotely, how are we with regard to the confidentiality security?
So that's one of the big pieces, Ellen, is we want to make sure that we are connecting with kids and allowing kids the opportunity to provide things like remote counseling, but we need to do so in an environment that is FERPA compliant.
Right.
Of course, being the Family Educational Rights Privacy Act, the national legislation that dictates privacy around schools.
Mhm.
So I think at this point, I know that there are some concerns about the Zoom platform. Big Blue Button, we host locally on our servers. And I think a lot of the meetings and stuff like that is happening on that platform.
And is that secure?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Tim, I saw your hand up. You have a question?
Thank you. Brian, you had mentioned it at the very, very beginning, but just to go back, where are we in, it sounded like we were doing something different when it comes to providing services like occupational therapy or therapy to children with special needs. There, you said something about the small group activities not panning out, or I apologize. If we could go back to that,
Sure.
how is that being run?
So I think you've got a couple of different things there, Tim. The first piece is occupational therapy and speech and language therapy are happening remotely. And those disciplines actually kind of lend themselves to a remote environment. Physical therapy is hard to replicate. So we have a part-time physical therapist. She's done video conferencing with families. Her work definitely involves parents. And so we don't want to have any kind of a situation where a child might be doing stretching or exercises. I don't want anyone to get hurt. So our physical therapist has been, I think, careful and has worked more directly with parents. In terms of what I mentioned about the ability for small group special education services, the governor has allowed school districts to have groups of kids, small groups of kids come in and work with staff. This is something that would be available to us, but I will share, and I think it's probably pretty easy to understand, I don't think that that's a safe environment. Certainly children can be asymptomatic spreaders of the coronavirus. And I would be very concerned about our ability to keep that school clean, to keep our staff safe. And I have not supported the idea of having small group instruction occurring in our buildings. That could be something I would be willing to look at later on, but right now I think that that is an incredibly dangerous service delivery model.
I understand. Okay, perfect. Thank you for the clarification.
All right. So Brian, since I got bleeped out, were you done with your superintendent's report?
I was, thank you.
All right. Did anybody have any other questions for Brian regarding that? Janelle, are you raising your hand?
I am, yeah.
Okay, go ahead, Janelle.
I was just curious if you had heard anything at the state level about the continuity of the education happening. You know, you had mentioned there were some families who don't have their hands on laptops at all right now, and I guess I'm worried that there are some kids who for 3 weeks haven't been doing anything. And you know, how do we compare that kid against a kid who's been going, you know, pedal to the metal like 6 to 8 hours a day you know, working on schoolwork? Has there been any discussion about what happens next year? I mean, I know that there are very little answers in all of this, but what's going to happen next year? How are we going to catch these kids up on what they've missed, and some of that discussion?
Well, that's a good question, Janelle. With respect to special education students, if there are services that we cannot provide or cannot replicate, we would be in a position where we would need to provide those in a compensatory way. So if we have, I'll use speech as an example. If we weren't able to provide speech therapy to a child who needs that service, we would owe it to them at a later point in time. So we're tracking that, but I do think your point is well taken about sort of that summer slide. I think that the need to review is going to be very great in the fall for sure. And I think at this point, when we're thinking about special education students, remember we provide extended school year programs. So this summer, we're not quite ready to talk about this, but we're working on what would our summer programs look like. And it's possible that they're more robust than they maybe had been in previous years. But so between compensatory services and perhaps some expanded summer offerings, we would make sure that we're providing those important supports to our students.
Okay.
Great, thank you.
All right, so if we're done with the superintendent's report and there's no other questions, I'm gonna move on to old business. And our first is the committee assignment review. So all of you should have received your assignments last week from Denise, and an updated one sent today with the new Boston members that picked the committee. So thank you for participating in these committees. Please look over this list. Make sure you know which committee you're on. If you have any questions, please let me know. At this point, we have not started to schedule subcommittees. Once we do, we will let you know. But once that does happen, please try to make your committees. They're really important. And if you are not able to make it, please at least let Denise know so she can get the alternate in a timely fashion. So thank you everybody for getting that into me. The next is Glen Lake update.
So I'll do a brief intro and then I'll hand it off to Mr. Gross.
Okay, Brian.
The project is moving forward. We are executing contracts with Schiavi as well as Neville Excavation. And Scott, why don't you go ahead and speak to this, please?
Sure. So as you know, the board accepted the bid from Schiavi for the modular classroom itself. And right now, I'm going to share with my desktop with you in just a second. Just give me. Let me know when you can see it. It should say standard agreement of sale.
Yep, I'm good.
All right, so as I scroll down, what you're going to see is this $522,730 for the classroom itself was about a little over $2,000 more than what we anticipated, so fairly close in terms of our estimate. The amount here, this $130,682 number, this is, I just got the agreement last week. I had our school attorney take a look at the agreement. I have to make a couple of modest changes to it. But with that, my anticipation is that by the end of this week, I'm going to issue a payment with your approval for $682.50. So I'm not sure if that technically needs a motion or not. Brian, what do you think?
Yeah, well, let's be clear about the finances of this.
Yeah.
The project that we brought to the warrant included the one-time fiscal capacity disparity aid from the state of New Hampshire. That funding is not available to us until July 1st. So this first payment and the ability for us to kick this project off, if the board is in support of that, we would need to pay that out of a different funding stream. The two streams that I would encourage you to look at, one would be whether there was interest in paying for that out of the general fund, given the fact that we know we're saving money on things like athletics and supplies. We do anticipate that there will be a lot of savings as a result of the school closure. Or your other option would be to use impact fees. And Scott, refresh our memory, how much do we have in impact fees?
We have approximately $260,000 in impact fees, of which, if the board will recall, you had authorized about $39,000 of using impact fees for engineering with Stantec. Now, what we're allowed to do, and I've spoken with a few of the members from admin finance, and although we didn't have an official meeting, I did reach out to many of them and to try to let them know. I had spoken, for those of you who are in the entire board, I spoke with our auditing firm. I spoke to Cheryl Pratt about using funds, current funds, for this project, and that is permissible. I also spoke to Jamie Dow at the DRA. So we are by law allowed to spend monies from our general fund, or in fact our impact fee fund, and it's considered a float. So basically we use funds from the general fund this year to fund a project that starts on July 1, and then we have to return those monies, and there's a footnote
Right.
in your audit report. So that's all permissible. The choice that
Right,
you're going to
Scott?
have. Yes, sir.
Scott, if I may, this is Dan.
Oh,
So
yeah,
everybody,
I can't see everybody. If I could go back to where we
Yeah.
were.
It's okay. What we're trying to do is it's a lot easier for us to say we're loaning money. It'll be a lot easier, right? We're going to loan money to make this payment. So when July 1st happens and the warrant that was approved for July 4th, we're going to pay it back.
That's correct.
So for everybody who's listening, it's just a do to, do from kind of thing. It's not, so we don't have to, it's not a whole lot of, do we want to take it out of here? Do we want to take it out of there? Because it's a loan.
And essentially, I think what Superintendent Balke is stating is that I think that you have a little bit of time to make a decision. So I need to make the payment obviously this week, because the sooner that we get that payment out the door, the sooner they start to build the portable, and the greater likelihood that we have it in place for school next year. So that's very important. But the decision of whether or not to use impact fee funds or whether or not to use general fund monies, that's something that you can make later on. As I plan to give you what my expected fund balance will be for Goffstown at your next meeting. Again, that's going to be a number that's going to change a lot, but I'm looking at what we've already kind of saved in our budget, despite the fact that we've had $180,000 of budget transfers. As the superintendent said, there are additional savings. So you might be in a position where you could fund it from either source.
Okay. Ellen, I saw your hand. Go ahead.
Hold on, I have to unmute her. Hold on.
Oh.
All right.
Okay, go ahead.
I didn't do that.
I did it. I'm sorry.
I'm trying not even to touch my computer. What you're proposing that we would need to pay now, is that within our proposed budget allotment for this project?
Yes, so I will share with you that what we had budgeted for this project was insufficient. For the $900,000 in the warrant article will not cover the entire project. The excavation and the concrete work came in much higher than what we had anticipated. That said, though, our impact fees, the monies that I gave, this $260,000, that will cover any overages that we would have in the project. So there would be no other taxation required, in terms of we're staying within what was appropriated, Ellen.
Okay, if I may follow up then, if we use the impact fees now, then it is not a loan.
That's correct.
We would be using that now because the other money's not available till July 1, and then that money would be used for the rest of the project. Am I correct?
That is correct. That's why it's my recommendation that you would hold off on deciding what you want to do, because as we get a little bit further along into the end of April, early May, I'm going to be able to give you a better understanding of where I think your fund balance may be, and you may wish to use fund balance for this deposit versus using your impact fees, because your impact fees you could use for something else down the road.
But didn't you say you needed to make this payment like? as
Correct,
soon
and
as
I'm going to do it, as Dan said, this is kind of a loan, and
Okay.
it's going to be made, the payment's going to be made regardless
Okay,
right now, but whether or not you use current general fund monies, which is I would consider your fund balance, or whether you decide to use impact fees, which again is money that's already been raised and you're
Mhm.
allowed to spend, that's a decision I think you can make in late April or early
Okay.
May.
Is any of that money about to expire at all?
No,
Okay, thank you.
thank you,
Thank
Ellen.
you, Ellen. Ginny, did you have a question?
Yes, Scott, what is the expiration date on our impact fees?
I have those. I don't believe that any of them are in jeopardy of expiring anytime soon. So
Okay.
last time I checked, I think it was like a year or two away, but I
Okay.
can look it up, but
Okay.
Okay, just
Thank you.
curious.
All right. So Scott, you don't need a motion from us at this
would-
point?
I think a motion just to authorize the payment of, that 130,000, I'll give you the number.
682?
Yeah.
I'll move it.
130,682 and 50 cents.
Okay, and 50 cents. And then we'll decide later on where it's coming from?
Yep, as I think you have plenty of time to make that decision.
I'll
Okay.
move that, Heather.
All right, so Ellen makes
Ellen,
I
the
second.
motion. And who seconded? Jared?
This is Jared, second.
Okay, is there any other questions? Okay, seeing none, I'm gonna do a roll call. Dan,
Dan says aye.
Ellen,
aye.
Tim,
Aye.
Susanna,
Aye.
Janelle,
Aye.
and none,
Jared?
I'm gonna do
Aye.
Ginny,
Aye.
Retta. Retta, I think.
Aye.
Oh, there you are. Okay, and Heather, aye. So it passes unanimously, Denise. All right, thank you, Scott. Is there anything else?
I really kind of like this whole meeting format. So I'm just saying, for a geek with, I can get you. So here's your answer, Ginny.
Yes.
Here are your impact fees. The deadline for use, so the earliest one is December of 2022.
And if
Okay.
you're sitting really, really close, you can see it.
Oh, hold on.
I can see it.
And then you'll see that
Oh.
the amount down here is 263,000. There might be a little bit more in there, maybe another 5,000, because this is from December. But I just wanted to,
Yeah, there we go. I can see
And
it.
Scott, I'm with you. I like this format. These chairs are so much more comfortable.
All right. So Scott, is there anything else that you
yeah,
need? to let us know?
Brian had mentioned a little bit about transportation. So much like the superintendents,
Mhm.
I've been getting together with the business administrators every couple of weeks, and we did talk about transportation. These are all of the BAs in our local area that use the same provider. I have spoken with school board members like Jared and Tim and Dan and a few others, Heather also, folks on admin finance. most of you are familiar now with the $2 trillion CARES Act, that relief bill. And one of the important things that was in that relief bill in the education part, and I'm going to see if I can perhaps even bring that up. And I'm going to try. This is kind of fuzzy, but I'm going to read it to you because it was, I'm going to share it, but I'm going to read it because it's a little fuzzy. Let me know when you can see it.
Go ahead.
Okay.
So I was bored, a couple of weeks ago, not having much to do. And I started to read the CARES Act. And on page 675, I'll read it to you. Section
765.
18006, a local educational agency, that's a school board, state, institution of higher learning, or other entity that receives funds under the Education Stabilization Fund shall, to the greatest extent practicable, continue to pay its employees and contractors during the period of any disruptions or closures related to coronavirus. So several attorneys for several school districts have interpreted the CARES Act, and really the conclusion that's been drawn is that school districts and agencies, to the greatest extent possible, should continue to pay their employees and their contractors. That being said, the majority, I'd say actually it was unanimous. I think the 8 school district BAs are recommending to their school boards that we continue to pay our transportation providers until May 4th, when this order ceases. And then we're in the process. We have another conference call next week. We're negotiating with our transportation provider on things such as fuel credits and some other matters. But one of the issues that we have is that, one, we're not sure if school will reopen or not reopen. So if we did make changes to our transportation contract and bus drivers went on unemployment or left, it would jeopardize our ability to perhaps restart school if there's no bus drivers. Similarly, it's not just the buses, the bus drivers. A lot of the buses have been leased. They're making payments on those buses. So where practical, we're going to negotiate some reductions in what we're paying the transportation provider. But the intent for all of us is to negotiate as a block. I've already communicated with STA, our provider, with regard to that. So there are 8 of us, 8 school districts that are going to be speaking with one voice, shall we say. So that's kind of where we stand on the transportation side. I also, same thing will be on the, that was regular ed, same thing on the special ed side as well. We're going to be negotiating with them.
Okay. Thank you,
Are there any
Scott. Ellen?
questions on that?
Yeah, Ellen has something.
Yes, we have as a district, we just voted on it a little while ago, considerable amount of unanticipated expenditures specifically due to the virus and the school shutdown. I'm thinking of the computers and the increased capacity. Are those funds that we could recoup through the CARE Act?
We believe yes. So this is where it's there was $37.5 million allocated to the state of New Hampshire for elementary and secondary education. Those funds are going to be dispersed to local school districts, I believe, through a formula that uses a lot of free and
Title I.
reduced lunch component, and there's also a Title I component on top of that, Brian. So there is monies that are going to come back to help offset the costs that we have, Ellen.
Okay.
So I just don't know the exact amount. That's something that is going to come later. So you can imagine a high bill, a congressional bill that then
Yeah.
goes to the states. They're seeking guidance. So Governor Sununu has sought guidance from Treasury Secretary Mnuchin. Rules then have to be created that align
Right.
with the bill, congressional bill. So ultimately, and then
Yeah.
goes to the
Getting
states.
all excited
They're
over
seeking
there.
the state has to kind of do their magic as well, and then we'll
Right.
get some additional funding. But yeah, I do believe that each school district is going to be getting monies to help cover, especially the technological costs. They just
Right.
announced today, education, Betsy DeVos has basically said that there's more flexibility in all of the entitlements, basically, titles 1 through I think 4, Brian, I think. there's more flexibility to use IT, to procure IT type purchases with that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Janelle, did you raise your hand? No, okay. All right.
If I can ask one more thing, Scott, can
Yeah.
you just share those districts that you're working with on the transportation piece? What towns you're talking
Sure.
about?
Okay, it's Merrimack, Londonderry, Bedford, Pelham, Hollis Brookline. Oh my
Hooksett.
goodness, Hooksett. There's like
Auburn, Candia.
there's like 8 of them that I'm working with. John Stark is the other one. So it's a lot of the ones that are very local to us.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Scott. So is that it with the transportation piece?
Yeah, that was it for transportation. I did want to share one more thing, if I may, because it's something that we did work on quite a bit. I'm just going to share this with you, and I'm hoping that parents can, anybody who's on, can also see this. So you're seeing, this is our school district website, the SAU 19 website. And what you're going to see here is, and again, thanks to Gary Girolman, who was our former IT director, who's helping us out. He's done a lot of this work along with Steve Bourget. But there's just a lot of information here on this COVID-19 on the left side of the screen. But I want to point you in particular a couple of things. The videos that the superintendent has done, and Brian, a lot of the folks in the community are super appreciative of that. And it's just been a great medium. And Adam McCune at GTV deserves a lot of credit with that. I'm going to click on the frequently asked questions. And here we just updated this last Friday. And I just wanted to touch upon just a couple of things. There's a lot of questions right now about the College Board, SATs and AP exams. And that is for information, just click on those hyperlinks for folks out in the audience, very important. We talk a little bit about food insecurity. Here, we're partnering with the food pantry based upon the volume of requests that we have, and that's something that's working well. Right now, there is no word on anything to do with athletic competitions, but there is nothing going on until May 4th. And then last but not least, actually, there's 2 things. The state just recently enacted an emergency order that's allowing driving schools to do a virtual classroom, a remote learning setup, and that has been communicated to the current March and April driver's ed class at Goffstown High, which is through Seacoast and Charlie. So they've been informed, but there's more information on the website there. And I also know that some folks in the community have been asking about the prom and graduation. Right now, the prom has been postponed indefinitely, and the advisors are working with the hotel to see about a later date, whether that be the spring or the fall. And as of now, there are no changes to the GHS graduation or Mountain View promotion events. However, we are developing contingency plans should that need to be shifted in either July or August. So I did want to at least share there's a lot of resources on the website for parents and school board members for that matter. So please take a look at that, for more information.
Great, wonderful. Thank you, Scott. Okay, so moving on to new business. So we need to authorize a request for the superintendent, again, like we did last time. This is our next successful board meeting. So Brian, do you want to speak to that a little bit, or what you need a motion from us?
Sure. And actually, Scott, if you want to, why don't you bring up, if you can share your desktop, go back to the SAU 19 website, and let's show folks where the COVID-19 plan is, because that contains the motion and all the information. So what I would respectfully request of the board, at your last meeting that you had, you granted me authorization to implement this COVID-19 plan as a temporary regulation that Scott will pull up in a second. So we would ask you to continue to grant that authorization.
So moved.
I can read, or do we need that to be read? I'd be happy to do that.
Sure, go ahead, Tim. That'd be easier for Denise.
Perfect. And we're looking at second paragraph, correct? Or first paragraph there, Scott? All right. To approve, I would make a motion to approve the superintendent's emergency operations plan for COVID-19 as a temporary regulation to policy EBCF, pandemic, epidemic, emergencies, and to grant the superintendent or his designee authorization to respond at his discretion to changing public health circumstances and to allow the superintendent the ability to modify or adapt school board policy as needed within an update. Scott, are you telling me to read that one, or what are you doing there, buddy?
He's coloring.
With an update provided at the next school board meeting.
I didn't do any of that, just so you know.
I'll
So,
second.
Okay, so we have a
Ellen
motion
seconded.
by Tim and a second by Ellen. Is there any other questions? I see Jared's hand. Go ahead, Jared.
So I know that the report out's going to be provided at the next meeting. However, what is the length of these emergency powers according to this motion?
It's the last line there. It's until the next meeting.
Until the next.
I thought that it was said also, can we bring it back up, please?
sure. Hold on one second.
So I thought it was that the report out would be provided at the next meeting.
No, it's the last sentence.
With an update provided the next.
With an
school-
update provided, so it doesn't actually sunset this emergency power at our next meeting.
Right. So this was that adjustment that you had put on a month ago or so. So what was the language, Jared, that you had preferred at that meeting? That
So
Sunday.
I believe what we had used previously was that these emergency powers would be sunsetted at the next meeting. And therefore, we would have to reconfirm this emergency power with the pandemic that is currently going on.
Right. It was the next successful. So
That
Right.
doesn't-
I would make an amendment to my motion so that at the end,
Hey, can you hang on before you make the motion?
Scott, can
Of
you
course.
expand it again? Because I can't see if people are raising their hands. Thank you. Okay,
So
go ahead,
Tim-
Dan.
Tim and Jared, right now, we know this is going to go through May 4th because
Right.
that's the current order. So at minimum, I would support going to May 4th or the next successful meeting after May 4th.
And Dan, I agree with you. That's where I was going to get at is if this is
Okay.
going to go till May 4th, let's do the next meeting after that. But I think
Okay.
it's important that we sunset the emergency powers listed here.
Okay.
I will amend my motion as long as I don't use the phrase sunset.
Sure.
All right, so we have a motion by Tim and a second by Ellen.
Yes.
Is there any other questions, comments? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to do a
Now,
roll
if we
call.
can, be really clear that Mrs. Moran has the last piece that this motion is valid through the
May Fifth.
May
May
4th.
May
4th.
4th or the successful meeting.
Right.
So if we
Denise,
don't get to
you
meet
good?
on May 4th, it continues until we
After.
get to meet.
I
Okay, yes,
agree.
she's shaking her head. She's
Okay.
good. Okay, so I'm going to do a roll call. Dan,
Aye.
Ellen,
Aye.
Tim,
Aye.
Susanna,
Aye.
Janelle,
Aye.
Jared,
Aye.
Ginny,
Aye.
Retta,
Aye.
and Heather. Aye. So it's passed unanimously. Denise. All right, thank you. So now the next is to grant continued authorization for the business administrator to pay bills.
I would like to make that motion that we continue to pay the bills as we have been doing for the last number of months, coterminous to May 4th or the next successful board meeting after that.
Okay, that was a motion by Dan. Is there a second?
Second.
Second
Ginny.
by Ginny. Any questions? Go ahead, Jared.
Yeah, just a statement. I know that I voted nay on this last time. I will be voting for this specifically because we do have that emergency pandemic declaration from the governor. So I'm happy to vote aye this time.
Okay, great. Thank you, Jared. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, I'm going to take a roll call. Dan,
Aye.
Ellen,
Aye.
Tim,
Aye.
Susanna,
Aye.
Janelle,
Aye.
Jared,
Aye.
Ginny,
Aye.
Retta,
Aye.
and Heather, aye. We pass unanimously, Denise. Thank you.
Heather, it's
All
Scott.
right. So now we're into school staffing. Brian, that's you.
You should all have received the staffing sheet, and I'd like to review. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 non-renewals. All of these were one-year positions. So all of these people knew that they were in a one-year position, and they would be non-renewed for next school year. So this includes Rachel Kimball, Kathleen Nahn, Robin Perkins, Candace Dumont, and Thomas Miller. Those would all be non-renewals due to one-year temporary positions.
So moved.
Okay, by Ellen. Is there a second?
Second
By Dan.
by Dan.
Any questions?
Question.
Yes, Ginny.
Were these replacement people that came in to be replacements this year? Or are any of these positions that we should consider again next year?
Kate?
Hi, Ginny. So 4 out of 5 were replacements covering staff who were on a leave of absence.
Okay,
One of those 4 was for our early retirement at Maple Avenue.
Okay.
And then the 5th was an add to staff that we were able to secure through Title I funding at Bartlett. So the one position at Maple would be eligible for consideration. They'd all be eligible for consideration if we had vacant positions that were open. But 4 out of 5 were replacements.
Okay, thank you so much.
All right, thank you, Kate. Any other questions? So I have a motion and I have a second. So I'm going to do a roll call. Dan,
Aye.
Ellen,
Aye.
Tim,
Aye.
Susanna,
Aye.
Janelle,
Aye.
Jared,
Aye.
Ginny,
Aye.
Retta,
Aye.
and Heather, aye. Denise, we're unanimous. All right, go ahead, Brian.
Kate, we don't have any retirements on this. Didn't we have?
All of our retirements have already been processed. We had one that was considering a request to rescind, and that is off the table. So all retirement requests have been processed to date.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
The teacher nomination sheet is the big long list. I'm really hoping that you will not want me to read all these names, but these would be continuation of all of our staff of all of our professional staff, teachers, with the exception of the non-renewals that you just approved.
So moved.
Okay, by Ellen. Is there a
Second.
second? By Ginny. Any questions? Seeing none, I'll take, oh,
Yep. Just one comment by Dan. I
sure.
always say there every year, there's one name on there out of everybody that I usually vote on this anyway because it's de minimis.
Right,
Unless anybody had an objection. It's not a contract.
no.
Well,
Okay.
it kind of is a contract.
I think it's fine, Dan. So I'm gonna do a roll call. Dan,
Aye.
Ellen,
Aye.
Tim,
Aye.
Susanna,
Aye.
Janelle,
Aye.
Jared,
Aye.
Ginny,
Aye.
Retta,
Aye.
and Heather, aye. So we passed Denise unanimously.
And,
All right, anything else on there, Brian?
yeah, lastly, we have our administrator nominations. And typically, the board would go in and talk about this during non-public session. At this point, we are recommending a general 3.5% raise for our administrators, and that's within the budgeted salary pool amount that the voters approved.
I'll move it.
Okay, I have a motion by Ellen. Do I have a second?
Second from Ginny.
Second from Ginny. Any questions? Okay, we'll do another roll call. Dan?
I am hesitating because you know how I like to look at numbers and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just wondering if, because of the COVID-19, is there a way for us to see more detail in a private setting without getting together, without having any other thing, or are we all, because we haven't talked about this, we've always looked at the numbers. I know it's within a budgetary constraint, but I'd like to hear from the other members, see how they feel about this at this time, because I don't think we're going to get back together for another 4, 5, 6 weeks to look at anything and kind of talk to one another about it. Do we just let it go the way administration, because I'm sure there are numbers that are behind all of these.
Yeah, true. Does anybody have anything?
Is this something that can be,
I'm not seeing anything, Dan.
Ginny?
Oh, did I just get locked up again?
You may have. Ginny's
Oh,
talking.
Oh, sorry, Ginny, go ahead.
Is this something that can be approved at this point? And then if necessary, later on, after we can get together, easily looked at again and modified if necessary? Or if,
Go ahead, Kate.
So
Kate
just
has her
like,
hand up.
Yep, I saw.
sorry, did you call on me?
I did. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Just like for our teachers, by RSA, we have to issue our administrator, our certified administrator contracts by April 15th. So we're under that same timeline that we follow with the teachers, which is why we always do it at this time of year. So certainly, I think if we needed to make adjustments, that went up, or changed contracts in terms of maybe negotiating more days or different days or things like that, we could certainly discuss and make those adjustments after the fact. But I think because by law, by RSA, we need to have these contracts issued by April 15th. That's why we do them at this point and are making the recommendation that we are.
Okay.
Well, that kind of settled it for me.
Okay.
All right. Is there any other questions on that? So we have a motion on the table. We have a second. So I'm going to do a roll call again. Dan?
Aye.
Ellen?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
Susanna?
Aye.
Janelle?
Aye.
Jared?
Aye.
Ginny?
aye.
Retta?
Aye.
And Heather, aye. So we're unanimous. Thank you,
Thank you.
Brian.
Thank you.
So that is it with our teacher stuff. Is there any other business that may legally come before the meeting? I don't see anything. So we're not going into non-public, correct,
Move to
Brian?
adjourn.
Correct.
Okay, so before we do that, I just want to say thank you, everybody coming on tonight, and Adam for making this work with Scott and everything. I really appreciate it.
And great job, Heather. It's not easy to chair a meeting like this, so all of you should really be commended. Well
Good job.
done. And I think that this was a really good way to do the meeting.
Yes. All right. So I will take that motion now to adjourn.
So
Ellen,
made.
motion. Second.
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 Aye.
Second by Dan. All right, I'll do another roll call. Dan?
Oh, I am so wanting to say nay, but I will say aye.
Ellen?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
Susanna?
Aye.
Janelle?
Aye.
Jared?
Aye.
Ginny?
Aye.
Retta?
Aye.
And Heather, aye. We're adjourned. Thank you, everyone.